Hii wanyama unawaona wote wamemalizwa na kiangazi. Karibu miaka 5 hatujapata mvua. Hatujapata mvua sababu ya njaa tu wanakufa hii wanyama hii. Sasa vile ardhi yetu hii hatuna shamba lolote, shamba ile tuko nayo ni wanyama.
Haswa sisi kama jamii ya wafugaji mwaka 5 iliyopita hatujapata mvua. Usaidizi ile ambao ulikuwa tunategemea mbeleni kwa pande ya masomo, kukula, ni mvugo imeisha.
Sisi ni kama tunakaa kama wanyama saa hii. Kwa vile tuko na njaa, tuko na kiu, mali imeisha, wasasi wamekuwa na stress mingi. Nafikiri kwa hivyo tuko tofauti kabisa. Mimi jambo yangu ile mimi naweza kusema ama nasisitiza ama naomba zaidi serikali watuangalie.
Parts of Kenya, especially the arid and semi-arid regions, are facing a long dry season, and some of its effects continue to cause destruction to economic investments for many families. Most of the affected areas are occupied by livestock as their main source of livelihood, and now they have been left to migrate to remote areas in search of grass and water. Pastoralists in the areas have lost millions of livestock due to the drought. Our journey to the affected areas highlights the magnitude of the famine as we drive into the harshest villages, and what we witnessed is a sad scenario. These are tales of famine. Kenya, and indeed the larger Horn of Africa, is experiencing one of the longest drought spell in history. For 5 years now, most parts of the country have not received adequate rainfall. The situation is especially harsher on people living in the arid and semi-arid lands, most of whom are pastoralists. According to the National Drought Management Authority, NDMA, 23 arid and semi-arid counties are battling drought and its effects. The 9 most affected counties in dire need of food aid are in Kilifi, Mandera, Marsabit, Samburu, Turkana, Wajir, Isiolo, Kitui, and Kajiado. The NDMA has also listed 13 counties in the alert phase. They include Garissa, Lamu, Narok, Tana River, Makueni, Tharaka Nithi, Baringo, Laikipia, Meru, Taita Taveta, West Pokot, and Kwale counties.
The drought situation remains critical in 22 of the 23 arid and semi-arid counties following poor rains through October to December, when the short rain season usually appears. On the contrary, the period during which short rains are expected ended up posting poor rainfall across most of the arsals.
The conditions of vegetation in arid and semi-arid counties are weakening, and in other areas even drying up. The situation has especially affected pastoralists who rely on the vegetation for their livestock. This has not only depleted the size of their livestock, but also left them weak and exhausted.
Consequently, the body condition of cattle and goats ranges from fair to poor as a result of long trekking distances in search of water and pasture. Drought-related livestock mortalities, therefore, continue to be reported in several counties.
Marsabit County is one of the most affected counties in the country. On our journey to Marsabit, we conducted spot checks in Laikipia, Isiolo, and Samburu counties. Carcasses of domestic and wild animals highlight the arid terrain. Herders and their families still searching for grass and water. The rural parts of Marsabit County paint a grim picture of the effects of prolonged dry season. Marsabit is the second largest county in Kenya with a size of 66,923 square kilometers with a population of 459,785 people, of which 243,548 are male and 216,219 are female. So far, about 70,000 households have been affected by the drought.
The situation on the ground is indeed very bad. The situation is getting out of hand. You know, this is a drought which has now lasted for over 5 years, because we've not received rainfall for 5 consecutive seasons.
At the Kubikalo village in Sagante Jaldesa ward of Sako constituency in Marsabit, we came across a community gathering under a tree. Well-wishers who included professionals from this community are here to offer their support. Many households are in distress. They are now staring at starvation. They are surviving on tubers and they have also lost livestock. The elderly are hardest hit. Too weak to travel in search of food, they are left behind. Well-wishers are their only chance of survival. This old woman explained to the visitors that she had not eaten for the past 4 days. Her kitchen had no signs of food. We were informed that after she lost her livestock due to drought, her only son ran away from home due to shock. Our host explains the losses are taking a mental toll on everyone.
Many people are experiencing the peak of drought the last 6 months, but some of our counties like Marsabit and others, generally northern Kenya, for the last 5 years, this has been the situation. At the moment, water is a real crisis. There's a lot of overuse on the boreholes, 24 hours, too many breakdowns, too costly. Water levels have gone down. Some of them have actually, the yield has seriously dropped.
In the neighboring villages of Dukatu ward, the majority have migrated to other areas while the rest live in wretched conditions. The makeshift structures they call home offer little to protect them from the harsh conditions. Their main concern is food. They claim people have succumbed to starvation in the area.
Sisi hatuna chakula, hakuna season since from 6 years sijampata hata mavuno hata katika Marsabit. Lakini njaa karibu kukufa paka saizi. Wengine wamekufa.
Kuna mtu yote amekufa kwa sababu ya njaa?
Ndio wamekufa. Karibu watu 5 wamekufa katika jamii yetu ya hapa.
We have not reported deaths. Kenyans have not died from the drought at the moment.
The conditions are slightly better in Sibiloi Northhor constituency, which received minimal rainfall. There are signs of hope, but the revitalized vegetation has attracted pastoralists from the neighboring communities. Resource-based conflict is now simmering.
Most of the rains, the short rains or the light rains that we received happen on the side of Ileret, the Dasanaj community. So Gabras from Northhor, from Dukana, they are really moving towards that territory. So we felt that, if you don't really address this issue at this particular time, there's going to be a big problem. For us to discuss, further interventions, we have to first agree on the ceasefire. And then we have to ensure that our communities are able to share the little resources available. That's pasture and water. And also come up with a committee, the herders themselves, who are going to engage each other, who are going to discuss their issues, who are going to share, information to avert, any conflict that's going to occur around this time.
There was a lot of concerted efforts, too many interventions from faith-based organizations, from national government, from other partners. We did so many regular meetings with leadership from across board. Our people just realized it's useless to do that kind of barbaric thing, and I thank them for realizing that it was the wrong thing to do. It can never be a solution to any problem. And so we've been encouraging and preaching harmonious coexistence.
Wario says he has witnessed cases of human deaths due to famine in North Horr region.
In North Horr area, we've lost close to 10 people due to hunger and starvation. So basically, it's not an exaggeration, it's a reality on the ground. People have lost their entire livelihood. So what do you expect if rains have not come for the last 4 years? And the next rains, will be in April, where we are already being told that, the next rains will also fail. So basically, the future looks precarious. It's really bleak. And what we are doing at the moment is we are trying to also talk to the non-governmental organizations who are very proactive in providing relief to the people. We're also trying to push the government so that they also scale up their relief intervention.
48 kilometers from Marsabit town, we arrive in the Bubisa area of the vast North Horr constituency. We met a young boy who is not in school after they've reopened for the first term. We learned that his parents lost 3/4 of their livestock. They cannot afford to take him back to school. He now gathers carcasses before setting them ablaze. His father is stressed. No words can describe what he is going through.
Our children will not go to school. Schools will not be open because parents have no resources to pay for school fees. The situation is dire. We are going to have massive dropout from school. So basically, we really appeal to the government, we really appeal to the president.
Na ile ilikuwa mbele tunasomesha na Vugo kwa sababu ya karo ya shule, kuna wale wamekosa kufanya test ya university wamerudi nyumbani. Na tunaendelea kuongojea KCP. Na ile ambayo tunatarajia ilikuwa tumepanga tutapeleka shule na watoto wetu ni Mvugo zimeisha. Haswa sisi kama wamama tumekosa namna ya kufanya. Tumefikiria sijui tutapeleka hii watoto wapi.
In Kambi-Nyoka village in the North Horr region, women take care of the few remaining livestock, feeding them with ugali and tubers. They hope their efforts can save the remaining skeletal animals. Pregnant women and young children aged 5 years and below suffer from malnutrition.
Unfortunately, high rates of children at risk of malnutrition have been noted in Marsabit, Mandera, Garissa, Baringo, and Isiolo counties. The number of children affected by malnutrition is about 960,000. Those are the ones that interventions are in place.
In the neighboring Demo village, families are faced with the same challenges. Here, they are forced to feed the emaciated animals. It is a job left to mothers and young girls in most villages, while young men travel far and wide in search of pasture and water for their slight healthier animals. The county government has shifted its priorities and halted some projects. Saving life is now their only goal.
The commercial uptake where the Kenya Meat Commission buy the livestock from the farmers, and it is processed, repackaged, and given back to the community, mostly schools, in the form of corned beef. So the government has done a lot of intervention on livestock uptake.
I have directed, and as a county, the interventions going forward will be geared towards saving lives, and we will be procuring food items and will be delivering water to homesteads, and therefore it will mean we have to shelve some of the development projects that we had planned.
Since 1960 to now, Kenya alone has faced almost 20 droughts. And if you look at the numbers and the time when the drought happened, almost over 45% happened after 2000. Basically, which means that out of 20, 10 drought happened after 2000, which means we are not going back to the old day. The pattern is almost changing. It's looking even more difficult in the future. And that's why I think because of lack of recovery between drought, household, feel pressure, there's no proper, support and, safety net for households. So it's fairly, we can say it's one of the most devastating drought, since we faced in 1984.
Guyo Malachi is a policy expert at the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, here in Nairobi. He says there's need to flip the coin and change the ASAL regions from livestock dependency, especially during drought season.
Marsabit and other arid and semi-arid counties, areas, have little potential for alternative. And this is the reality of the climatic dictates. It's not actually, it's an ecological issue rather than a production issue. So there is no much alternative that we can say today we, just flip the coin and people start producing on the other side. It's not like that. I think the most important question is how do we, in the evolving reality of drought, how do we evolve our support to a system through efficient market offtake systems, which we don't have right now. Number two, how do we match our action with early warning? Early warning over the last 10 years have actually evolved quite positively. It's very predictable that a disaster is coming, a drought is emerging. It takes 6 months between the normal part of the drought to an emergency. But what we do between that 6 months is actually a question, very important question now we need to understand.
With the long dry season also being affected by the effects of climate change, there's need for government institutions to refocus and change some of the policies in tackling the drought.
We have the policy, we have the thinking, but we have a critical issue there. The critical issue is actually we have gap. One of the gap is the financing gap. We have this nice thinking around policy and what to do, but I think we are not matching our policy, aspirations with funding, and that has to be fixed. County and national government has almost shared responsibility, but I think county being an asset structure, they are a bit tepid in their approach, and they don't have the necessary legal and policy framework that is supposed to complement. And county is closest to people affected by drought. The third, I think, is the capacity issue. Both at the institution that is operationalizing the policy, they have a capacity, whether it's human resource, whether it's financial, they have a different level of capacity issue.
Kenya is among the countries in the Horn of Africa that makes good use of early warnings provided by the NDMA. This information helps in dealing with issues such as famine, and organizations can mitigate their challenges.
Early warning over the last 10 years have actually evolved quite positively. It's very predictable that a disaster is coming, a drought is emerging. It takes 6 months between the normal part of the drought to an emergency. But what we do between that 6 months is actually a question, very important question now we need to understand. So the short of it is that we don't have good alternative.
The NDMA and the county steering group, it meets regularly. Of course, chaired by the governor, co-chaired by the county commissioner. We use that information. It's one of the most active and effective steering groups in the country. You can see from the records for yourself. We use that information.
As famine continues to affect humans, different efforts are ongoing to ease the situation, especially from the communities, professionals, non-governmental organizations, county governments, and the national government. The move now shifts from not only saving livestock, but also saving the lives of Kenyans who are facing hunger in the affected areas.
What you are seeing behind me is that communities are being provided for with some food stuff so that they can be able to, tend to their families without having to overexploit natural resources. We are also doing water tracking because water is one other scarce commodity during prolonged drought. Then we have mid-term measures and also long-term measures, and these are basically, providing boreholes, digging water ponds.
Although that is the situation in Marsabit, I want to say it's not any better in the rest of the FCDC counties. So my plea to partners, to national government, is to step up their interventions. We are grateful for what they have done so far. We appreciate. But the situation is really getting out of hand.
Behind me is the Dachikambi area of Jaldesa Saganta ward here in Marsabit County, whereby already effects of climate change have hit these villages. They've already lost a lot of livestock. And what is worrying them right now is that in the next few weeks, they could bury even their loved one due to the effects of climate change that are leading to famine in this area. Ali Manzu, KTN News, Marsabit.